We had a whole intro plan, but I just read a tweet that said Meghan was over blinking at the funeral. August. She was over blinking.
Well, because it's a response to one that's complaining about them holding hands in church, and the response to it is she hasn't. I mean, how is the two of them the two of them holding hands is apparently all her fault.
Yes.
And second, she's blinking too much.
Well, someone
also breathing. What?
I saw a tweet the other day that someone was like, "Oh, she has a smirk on her face," and she's just like standing there. It's just you can read so much into things.
Well, if you're complaining about over blinking, you are really digging for.
Yeah. Hello. Again, the audio is going to be a little weird right here in the beginning because we started recording, and then the baby woke up. So this is round 2, but it was a good thing because I planned to just freestyle it, and I can't do that right now. So now we have an outline, so it's going to be good.
Yeah.
We're back.
Yay!
After a long hiatus, and I had planned to do a whole bunch of different videos, and then the Queen died. So
here we are.
So just fact reporting to get it out of the way. Queen Elizabeth died on September the 8th at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Her 70-year reign is the longest of any British monarch, which, barring tragedy, is likely to be the record for a very long time. She was 2 years shy of unseating King Louis XIV, who remains the longest at 72 years. There is much debate over who is actually the longest reigning monarch just in general in history, so I didn't bring that up.
Yeah.
No, there's a debate.
No, and probably don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one seemed pretty quick. Unlike Philip, sentimental parts of me would like to believe she waited for Harry to be on her side of the Atlantic. But even in the initial scramble, they took time to immediately start focusing and then bashing on Harry and Meghan.
Well, yeah.
Immediately.
It's what they do.
Like, they sent out the message.
It's the only MO they know.
Doctors are very worried, which was codenamed for she's probably already dead. And, kids start running to Scotland frantically, everyone except Anne, who was already there. And the focus was once again on Harry and Meghan.
Yeah. Well, but the whole scrambling thing also makes it seem like... I mean, I think if there'd been more advance warning, they would have gotten there. We might not have known they were going, but they would have gotten there and been there. And the fact that they didn't do that, I think probably means they didn't. It wasn't imminent until it was,
which happens sometimes.
Yeah, well, especially when you're 96 years old.
Okay. So one of the first things I noticed that morning, because I was up with the baby, was that some British newscasters and other folks, immediately started telegraphing that people should take this occasion. Even before we knew she was dead, they were like, Americans better not shitpost about this. And the first thing, they shouldn't have been worried about Americans. They should have been worried about the Irish.
If there's any Irish people listening who can explain to us how we can become involved in Irish Twitter.
What do you mean us? I feel like I know Irish Twitter now.
Well, only because I want to know, who to follow. So I want all the info on Irish Twitter. It seems way more fun than
normal people Twitter. Or is that saying Irish people aren't normal? I don't know.
No, okay. It seems way more fun than just whatever the boring things I follow are.
So yeah, they shouldn't have been so worried about Americans. But secondly, if you need to telegraph that people should be taking something seriously, you're not coming from a position of strength. You know that people aren't going to take this very seriously.
Well, yeah. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just think they overestimate how much Americans care about that. I mean,
yes.
The Irish are much more deeply involved, much more recently at odds with the crown, much more.
Yes.
There's just way more recent history. I mean, we're, 250 years almost removed from really caring about the British monarch a whole lot. At least it hasn't had a direct...
Outside of, gossip.
Yeah, outside of gossip. But, the British monarchy has not had an effect on our lives for 250 years. We've pretty much gotten over it. And so it's like a gossip. It's like it's like celebrity news. That's what it is here.
Yes.
It's not impactful on our lives. And so, I think they were deluding themselves that vast majority of Americans who don't pay attention to celebrity gossip would really, have all that much to say about it. But
I think overall, between social media, I don't think the reaction to the Queen's death was what the palace was probably hoping for.
No.
Because there were a lot of really bad memes.
Yeah.
And by bad, I mean hilarious, but...
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, I guess, another downside for, clearly people have had, if not immediately, time to prepare. I mean, this obviously has been coming for, some time, and because just based on the whole 96 years old thing.
But wait, I put an example. Okay, here's a tweet with 700,000 likes. Please be respectful when talking about the Queen. She was a head of state, a monarch, a mother to multiple pedophiles, and most importantly, a devoted cousin to her husband. I don't think that's what they wanted.
I'm pretty sure not.
We call it a cusband.
Yeah, well.
There were also a lot of Diana memes, which I think goes to show that 25 years on, people really haven't forgiven the royal family for that. It's not a burning thing anymore, but there are still a lot of embers of people being pissed off.
Well, and unfortunately, it just came way too close to the whole 25th. I mean, Diana's been top of mind now for several weeks, and a big anniversary, and,
Yeah. And now the crown's going to come along, and people think it's real, but that's just hilarious to me. It's just going to throw it back again, as Charles and Camilla are trying to be this. I mean, tens of millions of people watch that TV show.
Well, and they're trying way too hard. I mean, and immediately recasting. I mean, I know people do this when people die in all walks of life, and sort of, not exactly saint, but, dead people become maybe not exactly how they were in life in death. But I mean, I immediately heard people talking about the fact that the Queen rushed to make a statement after Diana's death and this and that. It's did you not watch the movie The Queen? Or did you not live then? I mean, just immediately, which is just blatant.
Not true.
Not true.
Yeah.
It's just not true. And, I don't know. I think it's obviously bad when people rush to so quickly make things up.
Well, they kind of... So I'm moving on to our next
bullet
point.
Sorry.
I
didn't see it.
So outside of the funny memes, there was a larger discussion about what the Queen's legacy really is. Even when she was alive, and especially when she became elderly, the UK media would give her credit for anything good that happened in the past 70 years of the British Empire's history, while insisting that she never knew about any of the bad stuff. And they were always very vague about what said bad stuff was going on. You and I were up early and watching MSNBC, and it was interesting watching the pundits kind of dance around the Queen's accomplishments. Namely, the biggest one was not dying for so long.
Yeah.
It's just... I think it lays bare of how much, not real this is.
Yeah.
It's just built up on nothing. There's nothing there.
There is nothing there.
What did she do?
Got me. I don't know.
Me neither.
Had some kids and...
Didn't die.
Was married a long time and didn't die and was the Queen for a long time.
She did somehow manage to make it 70 years without bitching about pens, so far as we know.
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. And I mean, I don't quite understand why there's... I mean, if she's a figurehead and important to people as kind of this, sign of, the head of state or the head of the church or whatever, fine, but just admit that that's what she is, like a figurehead that people have affection for, and that, I don't know, you hear these stories about it driving, the royal family driving tourism, whether or not that's true or not, but just admit it. But the trying so hard to make that role into something that it isn't, and that it actually has some, really concrete bearing on anything, is just, they have to contort themselves into knots to even
Well, and they pull that, I always say about other family members, they like the entrappings of royalty, but then say, oh, we're just a normal family.
Yeah.
Whenever they receive criticism, that's kind of like the figurehead thing. Like whenever, they have a ton of soft power. They have a shit ton of money, which automatically makes them powerful.
Right.
They own a ton of land.
Yeah.
But when the minute you start to criticize them, oh, they're just a figurehead.
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
I mean,
okay.
even that stuff is... I mean, the soft power stuff seems to be it's just another function of the, like, wealth and figurehead and status. I mean...
Yeah, they don't do it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not like the Queen's making government decisions or affecting the price of heating oil or things that have a concrete effect on people's lives. I mean...
No.
I mean, they famously declare themselves above politics.
Except they're not.
Well, I know. But I mean, but they should just, I don't know. I think they'd be, just either become more like a modern European monarchy and become, less all about the pomp and circumstance, or just embrace the fact that the pomp and circumstance is 100% about what you're about and embrace it. And
there's just not a whole lot of there.
No. It's all, and I don't know. It's all, I mean, just watching so much of this, and I get that there's all these hundreds of years of history, and it's all somehow makes some people feel better, I guess, but the costumes and the ceremony and I don't know.
It's a show.
Yeah.
And it's weird to watch a whole nation put on such a show. And I mean, all nations do that to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, all ceremonies are, but it's so much of just like a show. That's all. That's it.
Yeah, I don't get the military outfits and the...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just... I just do not understand.
We don't. I mean, as Americans, we don't
No.
understand. But I still, though, feel like when you're pressing a British person, they don't either. And that might be, like, a controversial thing to say. But when you really try and, like, get to the heart of it, like... Because I feel like I'm a pretty empathetic person. I feel like it's relatively easy to explain things to me. And I can be like, okay, like, maybe I don't feel that, but I understand why you do. And I have never had that moment about the Brit. Like, trying to get a British person to explain it to me, I'm still just like... Do you think there's actually a there, or are you just... I have never gotten that vibe.
I will say, though, that some of even the initial news coverage to me seemed more negative than it would have been at some point. I mean, they had interviews pretty quickly with people who were like, yeah, I'm sad, I guess, that the Queen died, and, she was fine, I mean, but... I don't know. I'm really not in favor of the monarchy. And I mean, I think you heard a lot more anti-royalist stuff than maybe would have been broadcast even 20 or 30 years ago.
Well, so obviously the British Empire has a long history of committing atrocities towards their colonized nations. We couldn't even begin to scratch the surface, even if this video was many, many hours long. And the Queen was the head of an institution that participated in said atrocities, which still were being and probably are being committed. So someone actually pointed out that she became queen while on a tour to try and discourage independence movements.
Yeah, so 70 years ago.
So yes, but this idea that she's just so far removed from all that, again, that bad stuff. Oh, she didn't know about any of that. Yeah. So people were always going to have...
Andrew? Which who? Yeah.
We're talking about colonial atrocities, not one of her pedophile sons.
Yeah.
People...
I don't think I knew there were multiple.
Okay. Charles was very... Like, there was this guy, Jimmy Savile. He was this big guy in the UK. He was like some child broadcaster.
I think I remember that Charles was buddies with.
Super buddies with. And then there was like a priest or something. There's more than one.
Well, I mean, as we've discussed, for whatever reason, power hungriness, probably rich men and
child predators seem to run in the same circles.
Yeah.
But people were always going to have really complicated feelings about her death, and outside of the Irish and Australians, most of these people are not white. So there was immediately this kind of bad look to have white British folks insisting that non-white victims of the British Empire, not only white British folks, but apparently Jeff Bezos, insisting that non-white victims of the British Empire should just remain quiet. Yeah. She contributes on MSNBC. Her name's Dr. Blackstock. She said it best. People always expect the oppressed to have compassion and never the oppressor. And there was a whole bunch that was in response to basically a whole bunch of people from colonized nations being like, fuck that. I mean,
we don't care.
Not only do we not care, like, we're not sad.
Yeah.
And what she represents is a lot of evil things to us.
Well, yeah, and I read a lot of interesting things about, look, this is the way we perpetuate a lot of this horrible stuff is by casting it as, oh, we have to have respect for the dead. Yes. Oh, we have to have respect for tradition. Oh, we have to, if you don't kind of blow some of that stuff up sometimes, figuratively, things don't change.
Yes.
They just remain the same. And so while, yes, it's probably bad form to dance on anyone's grave, the failure or the thought that somehow bringing up bad things in light of someone like that's death is, it's just self-serving, and it perpetuates decades, centuries of, oppression.
And I think it makes us all uncomfortable that a cute little old lady can be responsible for... No, I mean, do I think she was in, Kenya sending people to concentration camps personally? No. Do I think she knew about it? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I think that in the grand scheme of things, she probably had something... She could have done something about it? Probably. Yeah. So I think it makes us all uncomfortable knowing... Or just coming to that realization, but it definitely, again, it's immediately how, it's weird how immediate kind of the free speech people even start clamping down when it's, oh, well, that's disrespectful to talk about it now. And it's like, when are we going to talk, what?
Right. Well, and I also read an interesting thing about, not only just what was happening, but the century, people talk about the Queen's personal wealth or Charles's personal wealth. And that's a complete and utter fallacy, because even wealth that perhaps doesn't belong to the crown or, is somehow supposedly, quote unquote, their family wealth is a result of centuries of colonization and oppression and everything else. I mean, at some point, that money can all be traced back to bad things.
Yes.
And so the fact that they enjoy these, enormous trappings of wealth and privilege and everything else, even if, yes, they weren't committing atrocities themselves, they've still been the beneficiaries of that.
Yes. You can't separate it. That's what I always, they try and, this thing came out 20 years ago where it was like, well, every British citizen only pays 80 cents for the pence or whatever, a person for the Royal British or the British family. And you're like, if you dig into it, the actual answer is you have no clue how much you pay for these people, because so much of it is allowed to be hidden. Most of their security costs, you have no clue how much you actually spend on these folks.
Yeah.
And you can't separate their personal finances from...
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it goes back to kind of... I don't see the point of all those trappings and enormous wealth and whatever modicum of power they have. Even if they were private citizens, it seems like you can do more with it than just put on shows and costumes for people every once in a while.
Very expensive theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and people always point out, the biggest, apparently by the numbers, the biggest tourist attraction in the world is Versailles, and no one lives there.
Yeah.
I mean, I just say I saw Buckingham Palace in person, and it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. But at least on the outside. I didn't go inside. I think, French that's a little different. But what the point is, no one lives there, and they still go and see it. Those buildings would attract probably just as much tourism, if not more.
Probably.
Because you could open up the whole thing.
Probably.
So I mentioned before, even in the immediate scramble, the knives were out for Harry and Meghan. It was immediately announced Kate wasn't going to Balmoral, which was greeted with, like, nothing. Like, people were like, okay. But Meghan didn't go, and of course there were immediate questions and allegations, and it was, like, I don't know if Twitter Karens realize their like and comment history isn't private, but I posted a tweet that was vaguely negative towards Kate, and all these women who had been liking and retweeting and commenting under these, like, hate Meghan posts were immediately like, now isn't the time. And it was like, all morning you've just been shitting on Meghan Markle. But the minute, vaguely negative, like not even, like vaguely negative about Kate, now is not the time. It's that respect thing again. Oh, well, it's disrespectful to talk about this. She's rolling her eyes. You can't see her.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll try to remember that this is a auditory medium.
This isn't new, but it's like they're the main character. We keep hearing how they're irrelevant, but it's like every piece of news is somehow attached back to them.
Yeah.
Like they'll be announcing Charles is going somewhere and they need to tell you that Harry and Meghan aren't going to be there.
Yeah. Okay.
Or maybe they will be there. They don't know. But it's just like, I mean, anything.
Yeah. It's what they do.
It's weird.
Yeah.
So now we have King Charles III. The Charleses do not have a good track record in that country, but good luck. And Queen Consort Camilla. I think once we get further away from the death of the Queen, they will drop the consort for Camilla, because it's always been the King and the Queen. But we'll see. King Charles has made some interesting choices. He immediately made Will and Kate Prince and Princess of Wales. Some say it was a sign of confidence. Others say it was to ensure that the Welsh people didn't have enough time to mount an offense, as there were already grumbles. It was real fast.
Yeah. Well, I think they just think if it all just slides in there that no one will pay attention. Or care.
Which might be the case. I mean, it might be there's just so much at once. I mean, it's just like, okay, like, whatever. It was pretty funny that they changed their Twitter handles and, like, Instagram handles within seconds of the announcements. Like, I'm not sure her body was completely cool. And they were already like, oh, new titles.
Yeah.
Someone
they've been waiting a long time. I mean,
he has.
Even, I mean, Charles for sure has, but I mean, even William for, I mean, he's you know, I mean, he's an old, I mean, he's certainly old compared to his father, like, you know, becoming Prince of Wales, so.
In the same speech, he claims he has love for Harry and Meghan. I think that speech will go down as the high point of this transition, because almost immediately he was caught on camera bitching about pens twice. And it just, like, sneered. Like, it wasn't even about the pens. It was just like, God, what a whiner. And you could immediately see the way he treats staff not well, which, I mean, has been the story for years.
He's had a long time to perfect that sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had nothing else to do for
But you would think that mask could have stayed on for, longer than 24 hours.
You'd think. But, the real people show through. He's probably under, some amount of stress and stuff. And I think people's true colors,
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying about, it's the same as alcohol. It doesn't make you do new behavior, but it will reveal what was underneath all the time. And I found it interesting. Under tweets, people would be like, the first thing they would say is, he's our king. And it's like, does that excuse, like, any behavior? Like, how far does that go? Like, what could he get caught on camera doing?
I don't know.
But he's the king.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is weird.
Okay.
It's weird. I think, at least so far still in this country, we've, our ability to, criticize leaders has always been a hallmark of something we do with, regularity. And I think the unwillingness or the thought that you shouldn't be able to do that is bad.
Well, you apparently could get arrested for doing that.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. The arrest stuff is really bad.
In Scotland.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
They're at Scotland.
Oh, Scotland's totally gone. Scotland's leaving, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, where I lost. Okay, he's obviously Charles is coming to the throne at the time of political and social upheaval. The country has not recovered from Brexit. There have been very public campaigns showing children and elderly people starving / freezing, which will get worse over the winter. And I don't think he's going to have his coronation before. I mean, I don't think they're going to do it in the winter. I think they're just going to run out of time. So I think probably we're looking at next year. So things are going to get worse. And of course, both the Queen's funeral and Charles's coronation will be taxpayer funded, despite them being multi-billionaires.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And there's been these horrible, the arresting people for saying things is obviously...
Or holding a sign.
I wouldn't, I don't think that's very good. And, also things like, fine, declare it a public holiday, whatever you want to do about Monday. But, they're canceling surgeries.
Cancer treatment.
Yeah. People are suffering to have this, day after a week and a half of,
How would you not be embarrassed?
It makes me like crazy mad as an American, and if I was a Brit whose family member was literally suffering because they couldn't have surgery they need or treatment they need or whatever they need on Monday, it would make me anti-monarchy real quick.
Well, I don't get, and I guess I just can't relate so hard to, like, how would you not be embarrassed that at least part of your mother's legacy death process is that other people are suffer
directly.
People will die.
Yeah.
They're going to miss cancer treatments and surgeries. They might not die that day.
Yeah.
But they're closing. I think the food banks are already closed.
Yeah.
Food banks.
They
clear out the homeless people.
Making people suffer is not a good look.
To move on to a little lighter topic. I'm honestly surprised he hasn't done more to clean up some of the Harry and Meghan stuff in the press, just because they're taking so much attention away from him. He likes to be the center of attention. So not only is it, again, exposing this institution as being racist, he doesn't look like the main character.
Yeah.
For example, the Queen personally overrode the decision to not allow Harry to wear military uniform at Philip's funeral. Charles has not done the same for the Queen's funeral activities. That actually changed in between me writing this morning and now. They've gone back on that and said he can wear it at the vigil or something, which is dumb.
Well, I think Harry should get to do whatever the rest of them do, but I frankly think any of them wearing military uniforms is asinine. And probably the reason Harry stood out is because he looked somewhat more like a normal person in a nice suit instead of like you're pretending to be some banana
military
republic dictator, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's funny. He did reverse that decision but sometime between this morning and right now. Which, okay, I didn't work this into the script because it hadn't happened yet. It then again just raises the question, that was an obviously bad decision. Andrew was allowed to wear his. Again, it made Harry stand out for good and bad reasons. It was a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
Do they get bad advice? Do they get good advice and they don't listen to it? Do they just not care because they think they're untouchable? Are they just completely motivated by hate?
Probably all of the above.
Yeah, that's what people said. Yes. He still does have a lot of decisions to make regarding titles. Does he give Edward the Duke of Edinburgh? Which
I remember there was wasn't that like... There was controversy stupid. So a while ago about that, but I don't remember.
Apparently the Queen and Philip promised it to them.
Yeah.
Which is stupid. Not stupid. It puts Charles in a bad position because it was the title associated with the husband of the Queen,
right?
The most senior, second to only her. It makes no sense to give it to a fourth son.
Yeah.
Really, in the grand scheme of things. So now Charles has to figure that out. That's on him. Just an interesting little thing. Archie and Lily are now considered prince and princess unless Charles has privately interfered with convention. We don't really know yet. There's a lot of rumors. That has not changed in between this morning and right now. I still think that promising that Camilla would not be known as queen for decades, then coming out in the last year of the queen's life and saying, just kidding, was tacky.
Yeah.
It's super lame.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's kind of lame.
Yeah.
I'm also at least a little bit surprised because Charles has seemed to be more media savvy in the past that they didn't learn anything from Philip's death. The Queen was always going to be bigger, of course, but Philip's death was a good test of kind of the national mood or appetite for big royal mourning, and the response wasn't great to Philip's death. People were over it within a few hours. That's okay. They're, of course, going balls to the wall for the Queen. Closing food banks, canceling medical appointments, including cancer treatments, clearing out homeless people along big motorways. It feels forced.
Yeah.
It feels like they're doing too much.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah. Yeah. And they could, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that they could actually make a decision to scale so much of this back and, they could scale so much of this back and get good press for it.
Yeah.
And get credit for it. I mean, God, if it's, if they said, look, we were going to, custom would have it that we do X, Y, and Z, but instead we're going to take these millions of dollars and we're donating them to all these food charities across the UK. Or we're going to provide, X thousands of elderly with heat this winter or whatever. I mean, even just had they not been able to bring themselves to give money to other people, they could have, just said it's not the right time. There's upheaval. Not only there's war in Europe. We just have a new prime minister. There's
children are starving.
We still have pandemic going on. We've got out of control inflation. We've got, so we're going to scale back and we're going to do this on a smaller scale. And they would have gotten enormous credit, I think, for doing that.
Yes.
And they just, maybe because their whole life is basically just expensive theater, they can't scale back the expensive theater because it's what they do.
Yeah.
It's all they do, really.
So it wouldn't be a tea time without me laughing at Will and Kate. You don't have to listen to me butcher Cambridge anymore. So there's that.
Because her mother beat it into her head.
Which one is it? No,
Cambridge,
whatever. I think we should go the CNN route and just refer to them as the other two royals, Harry and Meghan and the other two royals. But anyway, I talk about this a lot. Harry and Meghan became a public couple who show a lot of PDA, right as Will and Kate became much more distant and stiff in public. This has continued through affair rumors, and during the Jubilee activities this year, there was a lot of space between them, and they were often photographed looking very stiff. I have to throw this in there. It's not just one photo, because you can get a bad photo of anybody.
Yeah.
It's a split second. I have resting bitch face. You kind of... so you can get a bad photo of people, but this is... They look like that for 30 minutes of photos.
Yeah.
William has never been very considerate of his wife, but this seems to have escalated with him walking away from her more often. At the vigil yesterday, he started leaving as she was still mid-curtsy. I don't think it's a coincidence that Harry and Meghan are being much maligned for holding hands, while the press conveniently ignores the new Prince and Princess of Wales have big Charles and Diana energy from the early 90s.
Yeah.
We're body language experts.
Yes, we are. We're experts on so many things about which we know nothing.
That's the new title of the podcast, experts on things we know nothing about.
It just, clearly it is a point of contention because it's sort of just like with certain families in the United States who project things whenever they mention things. It's all just kind of, you can tell what they're worried about by what they complain about.
Yes.
So obviously, William and Kate don't seem to be so, tight. And so, they just turn it around and complain that Harry and Meghan hold hands too much. And blame it on her, of course.
And blink, apparently.
She blinks too much.
Yeah. And she smirks because she has a face.
Yeah.
It's become very obvious that their issue with Meghan Markle is that she exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's just a convenient foil for, they can project all their other things that they don't want people talking about onto her.
Well, and we know that they listen to us. I mean, not us, like literally the two of us, although if they are listening to us, that's really funny. But at today's visit to Standing Ram, Will and Kate went by themselves this time. They had obviously taken an effort to touch each other more often. Whatever.
It's all theater. I mean, it just goes with it all being, it's like they're putting on a performance all the time.
Yeah, although I just go back to every time, if I had that money and the staff, I mean, imagine the free time she has and you choose to do nothing with it.
No, I know. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I mean,
nothing.
No.
I mean, he's done nothing with it either.
Yeah.
But it's just, I guess I would relate more to a woman. I just don't get it.
I don't either. But
whatever.
I don't have that kind of money, so I don't know. Maybe I'd be a jerk, and
maybe I think you would probably. I feel like there's not a whole lot of people that have that kind of money and privilege that don't end up kind of being a jerk.
Maybe, but you see at least examples in the world of people, like we were talking about this earlier. What about the Patagonia people? I mean, they gave away a $3 billion company. And not only the owner of it, who's an older guy, I mean, he's obviously lived his life with reaping the profits of this, and his family. But I mean, his heirs, everyone, they've all given up.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure they've been well taken care of.
Yes.
They probably are still getting, well, I don't know, all of the profits supposedly going forward are going towards climate change, $100 million a year. I mean, it's an incredibly benevolent gesture.
Yes.
At least it looks that way. I don't know. Maybe there's 10,000 things wrong with these people that I don't know about.
Yeah.
But on its face, it looks like how I would hope that a lot more people with some
billions of dollars
would do things. I mean, think of what good that will do for the world and what a legacy that is. And it's just unfortunate you don't, I don't know. I don't know what I'd do if I had billions. Royal family money.
Sure.
But if I had a lot of money, I like to think that I would end up trying to do something more than just fund my costumes and theater projects.
As you were talking, I was just thinking too, is they get all this money and all this privilege and they don't even care enough to really put on a good show. Like, they don't, I mean, they get all this money and privilege, and it's like Kate can't take a speech lesson.
Yeah.
They can't put their arm around each other. Like, I mean, if you're getting paid to basically live your life, you can't throw your arm around her. Like, they don't even care enough to put on a show.
Well, because not only have they been gifted with enormous privilege and money, they also have just crushingly humongous levels of entitlement. And I suppose if you believe in the whole divine right of kings and you believe that you're kind of divinely in this position, that it's hard to not, I mean, especially when you've been put in this position and, at least for Charles, you've been waiting your entire life to have like a real job and to get your position that you think is your divine right, that I think it would take a lot for them probably to not, I mean, it would take super big effort on somebody's part to make sure that this didn't get perpetuated and, people had the right, besides just saying, I'm a public servant, I serve the public, whatever. It's like, words are words.
Yeah.
Let's see, words, actions are what speak much louder, to be cliched about it. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like it would be so easy, and it's just incredible to me that not only the royal family, but more people who have just obscene levels of wealth don't do more with it than just enrich themselves.
Well, and this is probably one of the only good things about social media, is that they don't control as much of a narrative as they once did.
Yeah.
Because if this happened in 19, I don't know, 80, 90 even, they still had so much control over the narrative. And even the fact that, large news outlets like MSNBC or CNN or to a lesser degree, some places in Scotland and Wales are, I think, even putting out little, not so positive things is because people, you can just express yourself as an individual in a much different way than you used to be able to.
Well, much more widely.
Yes, and that I think it's as more people get to express themselves, it just, how do you reconcile those beliefs that you just outlined? I'm the King of England because God wants me to, in the same universe where Twitter exists. But how do you do that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
We gotta get going. To end, we're gonna laugh at royal reporters because it's fun. So a ton of eyes are on the UK right now, which again is part of the reason I'm surprised they didn't try and clean some of this up beforehand, because they knew this was coming. They might have not known the day, but they knew this was coming. It's been fun because, especially on Twitter, people are just discovering that the job of royal reporter exists. Dan Wooten, which I've talked about before, he got on Instagram or something and did a video of him very sad laying flowers, and then people who had watched him do it started responding underneath his post that he did it 4 times, asked for help. Basically his whole thing is that Meghan Markle is just performing all the time, and then he did this incredibly performative act, and he had to delete the tweet. It was great.
And there's more projection.
Yes.
I mean, Meghan acts like a, relatively normal person. The royal family puts on a show all the time, so who's accused of putting on the show? Meghan.
Angela Levin probably got it the worst, with someone on a UK morning show calling her out, asking where she gets her information from. The answer is Twitter and Tumblr trolls. And, I'm not a source of information. I mean, this is for fun.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the things I say are factual.
Yeah.
But this is someone with a job with reporter in their title, going on to people who tweet 200 times a day about how much they hate Meghan Markle, taking what they say as fact and writing it in a real newspaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how they should be embarrassed.
Okay, so I said it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And I'm surprised more people in kind of serious UK media don't call them out for it. Because it is. It's it's deeply embarrassing to the whole island that you're doing this shit.
Yeah, I don't...
But it's fun, though.
It is fun.
It's fun when they get... Because so of course she couldn't say that her sources are Twitter and troll...
Yeah.
Or Tumblr trolls. So she threw a hissy fit. I was like, don't invite me back.
Okay.
Did you like that British accent?
Yeah, it was really French, I think, but okay. I'm pretty sure that was French.
And it was meant to be British. The most interesting thing is she is writing the official biography on Camilla. And she literally is one of the most rabid, vicious conspiracy theorists around. And they gave her an official job. Weird. And, maybe wanting to, again... I mean, Charles may love to be the center of attention, but he wants to be the center of attention for good things, not bad things. And so he doesn't want people... he'd rather have people, presumably, digging into Meghan than delving very deeply into the whole Charles, Camilla, Diana stuff. Yeah, that could be true, although I think he's totally screwed with the crown. And it's funny that, a fictional show on Netflix is gonna, take a pretty good stick to the monarch of a country. That's kind of great. Yeah, because, I'm not sure what it says about the world or about the United States in particular that we get most of our history from, fictional, semi-fictional TV shows. It's a good show. It's true. The production value is high. But it's quite true that, a Netflix show is
And it's super funny that it like bugs them so much.
Well, yeah, because part of having this big ego and being told you're the best person in the world, you're better than everyone else because God,
Yeah.
I think, is having an incredibly thin skin. And it shows. Like,
yeah. I mean, even though I think for the most part, the Crown does a pretty good job of making them seem probably more sympathetic than they
deserve. Yeah, I mean, that is true. But it's just, you can tell when things get, like, you can tell when they've been told some, like, bad news. Like, there have been tours where I've been watching, like, Will and Kate go on tour. They do something stupid, like, tell reporters they can't come on, you know, because they want to try and make this also a private vacation as the taxpayers are paying them to do something. And so they'll do something stupid and then they pout afterwards. Like, obviously pout. 40-year-old people, whatever. You can tell when things get under their skin or when things kind of break through. Like today, Will and Kate showing more PDA after obviously someone told them. People on the internet are laughing at you.
Well, they probably told them Harry and Meghan look better than you guys do. So that would clearly, you know.
But it's just, I think part of this whole ego thing is they all, when things do kind of make it past whatever insulation they have, they act like little babies.
When your whole job is putting on a show and thinking you're adored by people, it's hard when that doesn't work out.
It is. Well, this was fun.
Yeah.
Do it again next week, maybe? I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take. We're recording this on Thursday. It'll be fun for everyone, including myself, to find out when this video is actually published.
Having a baby is also hard.
Having a baby is hard, and I don't have a nanny.
True. But you don't.
You help a lot, but you're not a nanny.
I'm not a nanny. It's hard.
It's hard. Okay. We're whining. I'm whining.
But he's so cute.
We hope that this video finds you well. And do we have anything else to say?
No.
Lindsey Graham's abortion thing's dumb. We usually end on an American political thing.
Maybe it'll help them go down the tubes. So
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's all we have to say.
Goodbye.
Bye.
That was definitely a French accent.
It was not.